Sally Field really truly hated him more than anyone else she ever met. Let me tell you all about Sally Field's amazing life story. Sally Field was born with the name Sally Margaret Field on November 6, 1946, in a city called Pasadena in California. Field's journey to becoming a famous star started from very normal, simple beginnings. Her mom, Margaret Field, was an actress too, and her stepdad, Jock Mahoney, worked as a stuntman and an actor. Because of these early family connections to Hollywood and the movie business, she got to see the entertainment world up close when she was young. But even with these connections, her path to success was definitely not easy or simple. Sally's childhood years were filled with emotional struggles and problems, and it was hard for her living in a family that was blended together from two different families. She often talked about herself as being really shy and not feeling confident at all. But despite all that, her natural talent for acting and her special charm and personality started to show through pretty quickly. After she finished high school and graduated from Birmingham High School in Van Nuys, she got her very first big opportunity in television. This was a special moment that would mark the beginning of her entire acting career. In 1965, Sally Field became super famous and well-known as the main star of a TV show called Gidget. It was a fun, light-hearted comedy show about a happy, energetic teenage girl who loved to surf. The show only lasted for one season before it got canceled, but it really showed off her bright, shining energy and her amazing ability to be funny and make people laugh. Audiences everywhere instantly fell in love with her. Not too long after that show ended, she got another really famous role in a show called The Flying Nun, which ran from 1967 all the way to 1970. In that show, she played a character named Sister Bertrille, who was a cheerful, happy nun with a special power. She could actually fly through the air. Even though the TV series was really popular with viewers and did well in the ratings, Field later admitted and confessed that she had a hard time with being typecast. That means people only saw her as a cute, perky, bubbly girl, and she really wanted and yearned for more serious roles that had deeper meaning. This time period in her life was a really important turning point for her. It was when she had to fight really hard to redefine herself and show everyone. She was an actress who could do way more than just be charming and funny in sitcoms. Sally was determined and really committed to growing and evolving beyond just her television image that everyone knew her for. So Field started studying acting with a legendary, super famous teacher named Lee Strasberg at a special place called the Actors Studio. This experience completely transformed and changed the way she acted and performed. It gave her so much confidence and belief in herself to go after deeper, more emotionally challenging and difficult roles. Her hard work and persistence really paid off big time when she gave an absolutely stunning and amazing performance in a 1976 made-for-TV movie called Sybil. In that movie, she played and portrayed a young woman who had a serious condition called dissociative identity disorder, which means she had multiple different personalities. The role needed and required extraordinary emotional range, meaning she had to show so many different feelings and emotions. Field's performance was universally acclaimed, which means everyone everywhere said it was incredible. She even earned and won an Emmy Award for it. This permanently and forever altered and changed the direction of her entire career. For the very first time, Hollywood and all the important people in the movie business began to see Sally Field not as just a lightweight TV actress who did silly shows, but as a serious dramatic talent who could do really deep, meaningful work. Her huge success in Sybil opened the door wide open to film roles that would really showcase and display her full range of abilities. In 1979, she starred as the main character in a movie called Norma Ray. It was a powerful, moving drama about a Southern woman who worked in a mill factory and who becomes a union activist fighting for workers' rights. The role really resonated deeply and connected strongly with audiences and critics alike. Field brought so much authenticity, grit, toughness, and passion to the character and made her feel so real. Her amazing portrayal and performance earned her the Academy Award for Best Actress, which is the biggest, most important award an actress can win. And her heartfelt, emotional acceptance speech where she said, "You like me. You really like me," became one of the most quoted and repeated moments in the entire history of the Oscar Awards. Those words symbolized and represented both her relief and her pure joy at finally being recognized and appreciated for her real talent. Throughout the entire decade of the 1980s, Field continued to shine brightly and succeed in a diverse array and variety of different roles. She starred in movies alongside Burt Reynolds, who was a big Hollywood star. She also shared a real romantic relationship with him in real life. They worked together in movies like Smokey and the Bandit from 1977 and The End from 1978. Even though their romantic relationship eventually ended and they broke up, it played a really significant and important role in both her personal life and her professional acting career. Both of these actors became one of Hollywood's most talked about and famous couples that everyone wanted to know about. Field also gave memorable, unforgettable performances in a movie called Places in the Heart from 1984. For that role, she won her second Academy Award, her second Oscar. She was also amazing in Steel Magnolias from 1989, which was a beautiful film that showcased and showed her incredible ability to blend and mix together strength and vulnerability as a mother who was coping and dealing with love and terrible loss. In all the decades that followed and came after that, Sally Field continued to prove and show her enduring, lasting power and strength as an actress. She appeared in the famous movie Forrest Gump in 1994 as Tom Hanks's loving, caring mother. That role became iconic and super famous in its own right. Later on, she transitioned and moved seamlessly and smoothly back into television once again. She earned lots of acclaim and praise for her work in a hospital show called ER, and in another show called Brothers and Sisters. In Brothers and Sisters, she played the matriarch, which means the mother and head of a complex, complicated, modern family. Her performance in that show earned her another Emmy Award. Even as she got older and entered her 70s, Field continued and kept taking on roles that challenged her and pushed her abilities. This included her Broadway performance on stage in a play called The Glass Menagerie. She also played Mary Todd Lincoln, who was President Abraham Lincoln's wife, in Steven Spielberg's movie Lincoln from 2012. For that incredible role, she received yet another Oscar nomination, which shows how talented she still was. Beyond and outside of her on-screen accomplishments and all her amazing acting work, Sally Field has also been an outspoken, vocal advocate and supporter for women's rights, LGBTQ+ equality and fairness, and mental health awareness. Her openness and honesty about her own personal struggles with self-esteem and confidence, and her candid, honest memoir book called In Pieces from 2018, gave her fans an intimate, close-up glimpse into her personal life. The book talked about her triumphs and victories, her heartbreaks and sad times, and her resilience and strength to keep going. The memoir revealed and showed the real strength that was behind her vulnerability and soft side. It resonated and connected with readers everywhere who really admired her courage and authenticity and realness. Sally Field's personal life, just like and much like her illustrious, impressive career, has been filled and packed with moments of love, partnership and relationships, and personal growth. All of these things reflect and show her strength and independence as both a woman and an artist. Her very first marriage was to a man named Stephen Craig. She married him and wed him in 1968 at a time when she was still emerging and coming out from her early television fame in shows like Gidget and The Day Flying Nun. The marriage happened and coincided with a transformative, life-changing period in her life, both personally in her private life and professionally in her work life. During this time, She worked really hard to redefine herself beyond and past the light-hearted, silly roles that had brought her initial fame when she first got famous. Though Field and Craig officially divorced and ended their marriage legally in 1975, they had actually been separated and living apart since 1973. That was a period in time during which Field began to pursue and go after more mature and challenging acting roles that would soon redefine and change her entire career. Together, the couple had 2 sons and boys together. Their names were Peter Craig, who was born in 1969, and Eli Craig, who was born in 1972. Both of her sons went on to achieve and reach creative success in Hollywood, following in their mother's artistic footsteps and doing creative work like she did. Peter became a respected, well-known novelist who writes books and a screenwriter who writes movie scripts. He contributed and worked on major, big films such as The Town from 2010 and Top Gun, Maverick from 2022. Meanwhile, Eli became known as both an actor and a director who makes movies. He earned acclaim and praise for his dark comedy movie called Tucker and Dale vs. Evil from 2010. Field has often spoken and talked about her pride in her sons and how proud she is of them. She emphasized and stressed the closeness of their family and how tight-knit they are, and how motherhood and being a mom grounded her and kept her stable throughout her turbulent, chaotic years in the entertainment industry. After the end of her marriage to Craig was over, Field entered into and started one of the most talked about and famous relationships of her entire life with Hollywood superstar Burt Reynolds. Their romance and love affair began in 1976 and lasted until 1980. It was a period in time marked by both passion and love, and by public fascination, with everyone wanting to know about them. The two of them met while filming and making the action-comedy movie Smokey and the Bandit from 1977. That movie became a box office phenomenon and a huge hit, and it turned them into one of the most beloved, loved, and favorite on-screen and off-screen couples of the late 1970s. Their undeniable chemistry and connection led to 3 more collaborations and movies they made together: Smokey and the Bandit Nantes, Datu from 1980, The End from 1978, and Hooper from 1978. Off-screen and in real life, however, their relationship was as intense and strong and complicated and difficult as it was affectionate and loving. Field later described and talked about Reynolds as someone she deeply cared for and really loved, but also someone who struggled with vulnerability and being open, and with control, and wanting to be in charge. These issues ultimately strained their bond and put stress on their relationship. Despite their breakup in 1980 when they split up, they maintained and kept an on-and-off relationship for a couple more years before parting ways permanently and forever in 1982. In later interviews many years after, both Field and Reynolds reflected on and thought back on their time together with lingering affection and still caring about each other, but also with a sense of unresolved emotion and feelings they never fully worked through. Reynolds famously called and named Field the love of my life in his 2015 memoir book. Meanwhile, Field, though fond and still caring, admitted and confessed in her own memoir called In Pieces from 2018 that their relationship had been emotionally complex and complicated, and at times really difficult and hard. In 1984, Sally Field found love again, and fell in love one more time, and she married film producer Alan Greisman. Their relationship came and happened at a time when Field was already established and known as one of Hollywood's most respected and admired actresses. She had already won 2 Academy Awards for her roles in Norma Rae from 1979 and Places in the Heart from 1984. With Greisman, Field welcomed and had her 3rd son, Sam, in 1987. Having Sam added another bright light and joy to her family. Field has often spoken with warmth and love and admiration about Sam, who later became a writer and public advocate who speaks out about important issues. She talks about the close-knit, supportive nature and quality of her family life and how they all support each other. Despite her professional success and all her career achievements, Field always prioritized and put first motherhood and being a mom. She worked on balancing her career with raising her children and being there for her kids. It was a balance she has described as both challenging and really hard, but also deeply rewarding and fulfilling. However, as with many relationships in Hollywood and the movie business, her marriage to Greisman eventually came to an end and didn't last. The couple divorced and ended their marriage in 1994 after spending a decade together, which is 10 years. Over the years and throughout time, many stories have emerged and come out from Hollywood film sets about actors clashing and fighting behind the scenes. But few stories rival or compare to the tension and conflict that reportedly existed between Sally Field and Tommy Lee Jones. Though both of them are respected, admired Oscar-winning actors who are known for their immense, huge talent and professionalism and doing their jobs well, their working relationship during the making of a movie called Back Roads from 1981 was infamously turbulent, which means it was famously troubled and full of problems. Sally Field, who has always been candid and honest about her experiences in Hollywood and willing to tell the truth, did not hold back at all when discussing and talking about her feelings toward Jones. "I have worked with difficult men before," she once remarked and said, "but Tommy was something else entirely. He was impossible to deal with and work with. I truly hated him more than anyone I'd ever worked with in my whole life." Her words, which were spoken with both honesty and truth and exhaustion and tiredness, revealed and showed the deep frustration and anger and emotional toll and damage the experience had on her and how much it affected her. At the time Back Roads was filmed and being made, both Field and Jones were at significant and important points in their careers and their acting journeys. Sally Field had already proven and shown her dramatic range and ability to do serious roles with acclaimed, praised performances in Norma Rae from 1979 and Smokey and the Bandit from 1977. Meanwhile, Tommy Lee Jones was building and creating a reputation for intensity and being really intense, grit and toughness, and an almost intimidating and scary seriousness toward his craft and his work as an actor. Their chemistry on screen and what viewers saw in the movie may have seemed raw and real and believable, but it was largely fueled and powered by genuine hostility and real anger they had off camera and in real life. Field later admitted and confessed that much of the tension and stress in their scenes together did not require acting or pretending. It was real and genuine. "Every look, every line between us was loaded and full of real feeling," she said and explained. "I wasn't pretending to be angry at him. I really was angry." Their conflict and fighting stemmed from and came from fundamentally different approaches to acting and completely different ways of working. Field was known for her emotional openness and being willing to share feelings, and her collaborative style, which means she liked to work together with others. Meanwhile, Jones was infamously brooding, which means he was dark and moody, and methodical, which means he was very careful and precise, and often dismissive of other people's opinions and ideas. He didn't care what others thought. He had a reputation for being domineering, which means he liked to be the boss and control things, and argumentative on set, which means he liked to argue and fight. And for Field, who valued and really cared about mutual respect and treating each other well and empathy and understanding others, his attitude was intolerable and completely unacceptable. "He could be condescending," she explained and said, which means he talked down to her and acted like he was better. "He treated me like I didn't know what I was doing, and I had already won an Academy Award. It was insulting and disrespectful." Many crew members, which are the people who work behind the scenes on movies, later described and talked about the atmosphere on set as tense and stressful, and exhausting and draining. There were long silences where nobody talked, and palpable animosity, which means you could feel the hatred and anger between the two leads and main actors. Despite their personal dislike and hatred for each other, the film and movie required and needed them to share numerous, which means many, intimate and close and emotionally charged scenes that were full of feeling. The irony and funny thing about the situation was that their fiery, heated interactions and fights made their on-screen relationship electric and exciting and full of energy. Critics and people who review movies noted and pointed out the realism and edge and intensity in their performances, but they were unaware and didn't know that it was largely a reflection of genuine conflict and real fighting. Field later confessed and admitted that she sometimes channeled and used her real frustration and anger into the character she was playing. I used every ounce and bit of irritation and annoyance I felt toward Tommy to fuel and power my performance, she said and explained. It was cathartic in a strange way, which means it helped her release her feelings in a weird way. Yet once filming wrapped and finished and was done, she made it clear and obvious that she would never work with him again. Not ever. I couldn't stand being in the same room with him, she admitted bluntly and honestly and directly. I just couldn't take it. Tommy Lee Jones, for his part, and on his side, never publicly responded in detail to Field's criticisms and complaints and the negative things she said about him. He never really defended himself publicly, but his silence and not saying anything spoke volumes and said a lot without words. Known for his gruff demeanor and rough personality and dislike of Hollywood gossip and rumors and celebrity talk, he dismissed and brushed off talk of feuds and fights as nonsense and silly stuff. Still, insiders and people who were there and knew what was happening confirmed and verified that his temperament and personality often clashed and fought with co-stars and other actors he worked with, particularly and especially strong-willed ones like Field. Strong-willed means they had strong personalities and opinions, and Field refused to be intimidated or scared. One crew member and worker from Backroads recalled and remembered, "Sally gave as good as she got. She didn't back down or give up. And that only made things worse between them and made the fighting worse. It was like watching two storms collide and crash into each other." In later years, and as time went on, Field reflected on and thought back on the experience with a mix and combination of humor and being able to laugh about it, and lingering irritation, which means the annoyance was still there. "I suppose he's a brilliant actor," she said and admitted. "But that doesn't mean you have to like the person. I didn't like him. In fact, I hated him." The candor and honesty of her words resonated with and connected with fans who admired and respected her integrity and refusal to sugarcoat Hollywood realities and tell the truth about what really happens. She emphasized and stressed that not every working relationship, no matter how professional and work-related, can be pleasant and nice. "People assume actors become friends after filming," she added and said, "That's not always true. Sometimes you just survive it and get through it." Even decades later and many years after, Backroads remains and stays a footnote in both actors' illustrious and impressive careers. It's remembered less for its story and plot than for the explosive pairing and matching of its stars and the drama between them. While both Field and Jones went on to achieve further success and accomplish even more things, she in Places in the Heart from 1984 and Steel Magnolias from 1989, and he in The Fugitive from 1993 and No Country for Old Men from 2007. Their collaboration and working together stands as and remains a stark, clear reminder of how creative genius and amazing talent can coexist and exist at the same time with deep personal animosity and hatred for each other. In the end, and ultimately, Sally Field's feelings toward Tommy Lee Jones never softened or became nicer or gentler. Her words, which were sharp and cutting, honest and truthful, and deeply felt from her heart, still echo and ring out as one of Hollywood's most striking and shocking admissions of dislike between co-stars and actors who work together. He may be talented, she concluded, and finished by saying, "But talent doesn't excuse cruelty and being mean. I'd rather work with anyone else, anybody else but him." That statement and declaration, raw and unfiltered and completely honest, captures and shows the essence and true nature of a woman who built her career on truth and honesty, passion and strong feeling, and the courage and bravery to speak her mind and say what she thinks, no matter how uncomfortable that truth might be for others to hear.